9 months before Rosa Parks made history, a 15-year-old black girl in Alabama refused to give up her seat on a bus. She was handcuffed, arrested, and told her voice didn't matter. But here's the truth: her courage helped start a movement that changed the world. So why isn't her name in every history book? This is the story of Claudette Colvin, the brave teenager whose stand for justice was almost erased. To understand the fire in Claudette's heart, you have to understand where she came from. Born in Montgomery, Alabama, in 1939, Claudette was a bright, determined, and sometimes outspoken teenager. She wasn't just going through the motions of school, she was paying close attention. In her history classes, she learned about brave figures who fought for freedom and justice. People like Harriet Tubman and Sojourner Truth weren't just names in a textbook to her, they were heroes. She would write essays about injustices she saw in her own city, dreaming of a day when things would be different. Growing up in the segregated South meant living under a constant, heavy weight of rules designed to make you feel small. Black people had to use separate water fountains, separate waiting rooms, and sit in the back of the bus. For a thoughtful girl like Claudette, these rules didn't just feel unfair, they felt deeply, personally wrong. She and her friends would talk about it, the frustration bubbling just beneath the surface. Claudette wasn't afraid to question why things were the way they were. This questioning spirit, this refusal to just accept injustice, was a part of who she was. It was this very spirit that would soon lead her to a moment that would change everything. Little did she know, an ordinary bus ride home from school was about to become a defining moment in American history. It was March 2, 1955. School had just let out, and Claudette boarded the Highland Gardens bus to head home, just like any other day. The bus was crowded. She and 3 other black students sat in a row in the colored section, a few rows behind the seats reserved for white passengers. As the bus continued on its route, more people got on. Soon, all the seats in the white section were filled, and a white woman was left standing. The bus driver looked in his rearview mirror and ordered Claudette and the other students in her row to get up and give their seats to white passengers. This was the law, the custom, the way things were done. 3 of the students moved. But Claudette didn't budge. She just couldn't. All the lessons she'd learned about her rights, all the frustration she felt about segregation, it all came to a head in that single moment. She later said she felt as if Harriet Tubman was pushing down on one shoulder, and Sojourner Truth was pushing down on the other. She told the driver she had paid her fare, and it was her constitutional right to sit there. She wasn't just claiming a seat, she was claiming her dignity. The driver grew angry, but Claudette held her ground. What she did next sent shockwaves through the bus, and eventually, the entire city. But the real shock came next. The bus driver, furious, called the police. 2 officers boarded the bus. They demanded to know why she wouldn't move. Claudette, just 15 years old, once again explained that she knew her rights. She was not in the white section. She had a right to be there. But in that time and place, her rights didn't matter to them. The officers arrested her. They handcuffed the teenager and forcibly removed her from the bus, all while some of her classmates watched in shock. Imagine being 15, surrounded by adults who are supposed to protect you, but instead, they are arresting you for simply sitting down. It was a terrifying experience. Claudette was taken to the city jail. She was scared, alone, and unsure of what would happen next. She later recalled crying and praying, feeling a profound sense of injustice. This wasn't just about a bus seat anymore. It was about being treated as less than human. She was charged with several offenses, including violating the city's segregation laws and assaulting an officer, a charge she always denied. That day, Claudette Colvin went from being a high school student to a symbol of resistance. But what most people don't know is what she faced after the arrest, and how her quiet courage in a courtroom would have an even bigger impact. Claudette's arrest sent ripples through Montgomery's black community. Leaders from the NAACP, including a then lesser-known minister named Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., heard about her case. At first, they considered using her story to launch a citywide bus boycott. She was young, fiery, and perfectly represented the injustice they were fighting. Her pastor bailed her out of jail, and the community rallied around her. They saw her bravery as a spark. Claudette went to court, and while she was found guilty, something important happened. Her lawyer, Fred Gray, had brilliantly set the stage for a much larger legal battle. He knew that a case built around Claudette could challenge the very foundation of segregation laws. And that's exactly what happened. A few months later, Fred Gray filed a federal lawsuit called *Browder v. Gale*. The goal wasn't just to change the rules on one bus line, it was to declare that bus segregation was unconstitutional everywhere. And who was the star witness in that landmark case? Claudette Colvin. She, along with 3 other women, testified in federal court about their experiences. At just 16 years old, Claudette stood before the judges and spoke her truth. She described the humiliation, the unfairness, and her belief in her constitutional rights. Her testimony was powerful, clear, and courageous. And it worked. The court ruled in their favor, declaring that Alabama's bus segregation laws were illegal. The case went all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court, which upheld the decision. It was the legal victory from *Browder v. Gale*. The case Claudette was central to, that officially ended the Montgomery bus boycott and desegregated public transportation. She had done it. Her stand had led to real, lasting change. So, if her actions were so pivotal, why have so many of us never heard her name? 9 months after Claudette's arrest, another woman, Rosa Parks, refused to give up her seat on a Montgomery bus. Her arrest became the catalyst for the famous Montgomery bus boycott. History often simplifies complex movements into single moments and single heroes, and Rosa Parks became the face of the boycott. The decision by civil rights leaders to rally around Parks instead of Colvin was strategic. Parks was an adult, the secretary of the NAACP, and was seen as having the right image: calm, respectable, and unimpeachable. Community leaders felt she would be a more sympathetic figure for the public to rally behind. Claudette, on the other hand, was a teenager. She was young, and after her arrest, she became pregnant. Leaders worried that her youth and personal circumstances would be used by opponents to discredit the movement. They chose a different path, and as a result, Claudette's story was slowly pushed to the side. It's crucial to understand this isn't about diminishing Rosa Parks' incredible courage. She was a true hero who played a vital role. But it highlights how history is sometimes shaped by choices, and those choices can leave important figures in the shadows. For decades, Claudette's contribution was largely forgotten by the history books, a footnote in a story she helped write. For many years, Claudette Colvin lived a quiet life, far from the spotlight. She moved to New York City, worked as a nurse's aide for over 30 years, and raised her sons. She rarely spoke about her role in the civil rights movement. To many, she was just a neighbor, a coworker. The world had seemingly moved on, and her story remained untold. But the truth has a way of coming to the surface. In recent years, historians, writers, and activists have worked to bring Claudette's story back into the light. Books have been written, interviews have been given, and her name is finally being spoken alongside other civil rights pioneers. In 2021, at the age of 82, Claudette went back to court in Alabama. This time, it was to ask a judge to clear her record from that day in 1955. The judge granted her request, formally wiping away the juvenile delinquency charge that had followed her for over 66 years. It was a moment of long overdue justice. Claudette Colvin's legacy is a powerful reminder that heroes come in all ages, and that courage doesn't need a spotlight to be real. She was a teenager who knew right from wrong and dared to act on it. She never asked for fame or recognition. She simply stood up, or rather, sat down for what she believed in. Her story isn't one of bitterness, but of quiet strength and perseverance. It teaches us that one person's brave choice, no matter how small it seems at the time, can truly start a revolution. Claudette Colvin proved that courage has no age. Her bravery helped kickstart a movement that made history. Do you think she deserves more recognition today? Share your thoughts in the comments. And if this story inspired you, please like this video, subscribe for more powerful true stories, and share it to honor the hero's history for God. Thank you for watching.